Chapter 4. The weekend arrived the way weekends always did in the dormitory, not with any particular fanfare, but with a subtle shift in the quality of the morning light, and the absence of alarm clocks going off in sequence down the hall. Saturday had its own texture in a building full of women who spent their weekdays chasing appointments and auditions and callbacks that never came. It was the one day the city felt slightly less like an opponent and slightly more like a place you could exist in without bracing yourself. Kira was in the kitchen when she heard Emma's bedroom door open. She had been cleaning not because the kitchen was particularly dirty, but because cleaning was the thing she did when her thoughts needed somewhere to go that wasn't inward. She had the radio on low, something instrumental and undemanding, and she was working her way along the counter with a cloth, her movements slow and methodical, the kind of task that kept the hands busy enough to give the mind a little peace. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway already dressed, which was unusual for a Saturday morning. She had her bag over her shoulder and her hair done, not elaborately, but with intention, the way she looked when she was going somewhere that mattered. She looked rested, which made sense. She had been asleep before 9 o'clock, an event so rare in the history of their friendship that Kira had actually checked on her through the door just to make sure she was all right. "I can't believe it's the weekend already," Emma said, leaning against the door frame with a particular lightness in her posture that had been there since Thursday evening, since the phone call, and the audition, and Mr. Jonas, and all the things that had rearranged the furniture of her life in a single afternoon. "I'm going out, Kira. I'll see you later." "Okay," Kira called back, running the cloth along the edge of the sink. "See you later. Have fun." She listened to Emma's footsteps move down the hallway toward the front door, then the familiar sound of it opening and the building taking her in the slight echo of the stairwell, the creak of the old wooden banister Emma always held onto on the way down. Then, after a pause long enough to suggest something unexpected had happened, the footsteps stopped. Emma had made it as far as the second-floor landing when she heard her name. "Good afternoon, Emma." She stopped on the stairs and looked down to see Mrs. Gavi standing at the bottom with one hand on the newel post, looking up at her with the particular expression she wore when she was about to deliver information she considered important. Mrs. Gavi was the building manager, a stout, sharp-eyed woman in her early 60s, who wore house slippers at all hours, and kept the dormitory running with the efficiency of someone who had long since stopped being surprised by anything young women in this city got up to. She had a fondness for the tenants she approved of and a brisk impatience with the ones she didn't, and she had, from very early on, decided that Emma was one of the ones worth approving of. "Good afternoon," Emma said, descending another step. "Is something wrong?" "Nothing at all, dear." Mrs. Gavi's eyes were doing something that Emma, in the full year she had lived here, had never seen them do before, twinkling. It was brief and subtle, but it was there. "I was actually on my way up to get you. There is a gentleman downstairs asking for you." Emma blinked. "A gentleman? Mrs. Gavi's expression remained composed, but she reached up and adjusted the collar of her cardigan in a way that suggested she was enjoying this considerably. "Waiting in the lobby. Very well dressed." She paused. "Very?" And then, because she was Mrs. Gavi and subtlety only went so far, she winked. Emma's mouth curved upward despite herself. "Thank you, Mrs. Gavi." She continued down the stairs at a measured pace, telling herself there was absolutely no reason to rush, that it was most likely someone from one of the agencies she had submitted to, or perhaps a delivery that required a signature, or any number of perfectly ordinary Saturday afternoon explanations for a gentleman waiting in the lobby of a girls' dormitory. Then she rounded the landing, looked down through the banister railing to the lobby below, and her measured pace evaporated. Chase Lopez was standing at the bottom of the stairs. He was exactly as she had imagined him, and entirely nothing like she had imagined him, in the way that real people always are when you finally see them in 3 dimensions after constructing them from a voice. He was considerably taller than she had pictured, with an ease in the way he held himself that was not arrogance, but something quieter and more settled than that. The kind of man who didn't need to fill a room, because he simply occupied his portion of it completely. He was dressed with the casual precision of someone who understood clothing without being consumed by well-fitted dark trousers, a light shirt open at the collar, and he was looking up the staircase with an expression of patient, unhurried attention. When he saw her, he smiled. It was a real smile, not the professional, managed expression of someone in his position performing charm, but something that arrived on his face the way sunlight arrives, without calculation. Emma continued down the last flight of stairs at exactly the same pace she had been using. She was very proud of this. "Hello, Chase," she said when she reached the bottom, her voice composed and warm, without giving away the fact that her heart had just made a very undignified decision about its own rhythm. "Hello, Emma." He had forest green eyes, she noticed. Dark and quiet, like looking into something deep. The kind of eyes that paid attention. He was watching her in a way that was neither invasive nor dismissive, but simply present, as though she was something worth looking at carefully. "What are you doing here on a Saturday?" she asked, tilting her head slightly. One eyebrow lifted. She had always been better at delivering composure than she was at feeling it. He held her gaze for a moment, and the smile deepened at one corner. "I'm here to ask you to lunch this afternoon." He paused. "If you don't already have plans." Her heart did the thing again. She absolutely refused to acknowledge it. "I was on my way to get lunch anyway," she said, which was true, or close enough to true to work. "So sure." The smile became a smirk, not the unpleasant kind, but the kind that suggested he found her deeply entertaining in a way he wasn't going to apologize for. "Perfect," he said, and held the door open. His car was waiting at the side of the building, a dark, clean-lined thing driven by someone who clearly knew what they were doing. Emma slid into the passenger seat and set her bag at her feet and told herself, very firmly, that this was simply a professional lunch, and she was going to conduct herself accordingly. She had mostly convinced herself of this by the time they arrived. The restaurant was on the beach side of the city, far enough from the dormitory that the air changed salt-touched and open, the sky wider out here where the buildings thinned and gave way to the shoreline. It was a seafood place built on a wooden deck that extended toward the water, the kind of establishment that was beautiful without trying to be, where the tables were simple and the view was doing all the heavy lifting. "This is a nice place," Emma said, taking in the view of the water as they were seated. The afternoon light was doing something extraordinary across the surface of its long gold sheets of it moving with the slow rhythm of the waves. "It is," Chase agreed, settling into the chair across from her with that same unforced ease. "I like looking at the water when I eat. It makes everything slower." He glanced at the horizon. "Calmer." Emma looked at him across the table. "I wouldn't have expected this," she admitted. "What? This?" She gestured briefly at the restaurant, the water, the general situation. "I thought you'd be more of a club and bright lights kind of man. Loud music, women who look like they stepped off a runway." She said it honestly, without edge, because it was simply the image that the word Chase Lopez had always produced in her mind, someone who moved through the glittering, crowded parts of this industry the way powerful men tended to move through them. He leaned back slightly in his chair and looked at her with an expression of genuine amusement. "Is that what you think of me?" "It's what I expected," she said carefully. "I'm willing to be corrected." "I can be that kind of man," he said, and there was something light and self-aware in his tone, "if that's what the situation calls for. But it's not what I prefer." He paused. "What do you prefer, Emma?" The question was simple enough on its surface. She looked out at the water for a moment before she answered. "Quiet," she said. "Real things." Something in his expression shifted almost imperceptibly, the way still water moves when something passes beneath it. They ate. The food was good, The kind of good that came from simplicity done well, and they talked the way two people talk when they are discovering, with some surprise, that the other person is significantly more interesting than the version of them they had constructed in their own head. He asked about her, and listened when she answered in the way that people who are genuinely curious listen, not waiting for a pause in which to speak, but actually tracking what she said. She asked about him, and he answered without the careful self-presentation she had expected from someone in his position, without the PR gloss. After they ate, he asked if she wanted to walk along the beach. She nodded. The sand was warm beneath the thin soles of her shoes, and the air was thick with salt and the particular restfulness of being near something larger than yourself. They walked without rushing, their footsteps leaving shallow impressions that the waves would erase in their own time. She started to smile. She couldn't entirely help it. It came from somewhere she hadn't quite given permission to, something loosened by the afternoon and the water and the unexpected reality of this man beside her. "What's funny?" he asked, watching her with that quiet, attentive look. "Nothing, really." She glanced up at him. "I just didn't think you'd be the kind of man who likes to walk on beaches. And now I'm revising my assumptions." She paused. "You were not what I pictured." He slowed slightly. There was something different in his expression, now warmer, more direct, the kind of look that had no performance in it at all. "And what did you picture?" "Someone who didn't notice things," she said honestly. "Someone who looked past people rather than at them." She held his gaze. "You're not that." He said nothing for a moment. Then he stepped closer, single, deliberate step, and before she had fully processed the movement, he had taken her hand gently at the wrist and pulled her, slowly and without force, so that she turned toward him. His other hand came to rest at her waist, warm through the fabric of her blouse, and she was standing close enough that she had to tilt her chin up slightly to look at him. "I can be that kind of man," he said quietly, something playful at the corner of his mouth, "if that's what you want." The blush came before she could stop it, a sudden rush of warmth that moved from her chest up her throat and into her face. She was aware of it, and annoyed by her awareness of it in equal measure. She pressed her hands flat against his chest, not pushing away, just creating a... She looked into his eyes. Forest green, deep and steady. Watching her the way he had been watching her since the staircase, with complete attention and no urgency. "No," she said quietly. "I don't want that kind of man." A pause. "I'm the exception," she whispered. She had not meant to say it that way. She had not meant the whisper. But it was out now, low and soft, and she watched his expression absorb it, and watched something settle in his face that hadn't quite been settled before. He smiled. Slow and genuine. He looked at her grey eyes looking back into his, and whatever he had been about to say, he let go of it. "Why don't we sit down?" he asked instead, nodding toward a row of beach chairs half shaded by sun umbrellas, facing the water. "Sure," she said. They settled into the chairs side by side and looked out at the ocean as the afternoon moved toward evening, the light shifting from gold to amber, to the particular burning rose that appeared just before the sun reached the water. It came on slowly the way the best things came, the sky changing its colors in layers, the water below catching each new shade and carrying it outward. Emma watched it and felt something in her chest that she hadn't felt in a long time. Not the anxious hope of someone waiting for her life to begin. Something quieter and more present than that. Something that simply was, without needing to become anything else. "This is beautiful," she said. Chase glanced at her rather than at the sunset. His gaze moved over her profile, the particular quality of her grey eyes in this light, the way she held her chin slightly lifted when she was moved by something, the small unconscious curve at the corner of her mouth. "You sure are," he said. And then, catching himself, he looked back at the water. His jaw shifted. "I mean the sunset. Very beautiful." He cleared his throat in a way that was so deliberately composed it communicated the exact opposite. Emma turned to look at him. He was looking at the water with a very studied expression. She smiled and said nothing, and let him have the moment. But her heart had made its decision. End of chapter. Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe and like the channel.